community, our hometown. This is Kearney Live on 102.7 FM, our hometown radio station. Kearney Live is presented by Kearney Trust, 310 West 92 Highway in Kearney, 816-628-6666. And now here's the hosts of Kearney Live, Mike Davis and Jim Dickerson.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a very foul and sour look that I could see out of the sort of the periphery of my vision here, and it was coming from Jim Dickerson. That's right, Jim Dickerson. He's the say that right there. He's the co-host of this very program. You're listening to Kearney Live. It is the most important program on the planet, and maybe right, and exactly right. Thank you for that, and maybe beyond. Is that right, Brian Watts?
That is correct. Yep.
Brian
right.
Watts, our producer engineer, and Brian Watts is the sexiest man in Kearney, and the votes are because yes, in the recent tally, we noticed that it was just hands down. You were the clear winner, Brian. And
that is great. Thank you.
Right, you're just that kind of guy, and not to mention you're the smartest man in Kearney too.
Oh yeah, we knew that.
Right. So welcome to the show.
That's only because I don't live in Kearney. Thank you. Just a little nugget there. I did hear, though, did you hear about the ratings?
I think I'm about to.
Yes.
So we beat CNN again.
Yep.
There you go.
Not that difficult. CNN shed, over this time last year, 90% of their viewership in 1 year. 90%.
Wow.
And we continue to go up.
Right. We have different trajectories. And I would definitely say that the model would be to succeed is don't lie to people. Right?
Right.
I mean, is it fair to say that?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be fair here. I'm going to move this just a little bit.
I'm going to move your camera here.
Careful. You are?
Hey, Jim, tell me something.
So... Wow, I wasn't ready for that.
Little production. It's on the fly. Here.
I was
how we do it.
I was going to say, give you some updated news in the Kearney area, but there really isn't any. There's nothing going on. I mean, it's supposed to snow like between 1 and 74 inches on Saturday, I guess. So, and our weather folks over in the weather center.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even sure I heard them talk about the snow yet.
I'm not even sure they showed up today.
It's not that big of a deal
yet.
Yeah.
And I know Melinda will do the updated weekend weather tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Maybe she'll talk a little bit about it. But we try to be responsible and not tell everybody that it's going to be Snowmageddon. Because remember last week? They were talking like we were all going to die.
Yeah.
And
They were wrong.
I had like a few ice nuggets on my driveway, but short of that,
There's
nothing
a joke
happened.
in there somewhere. I'm going to leave it alone. Yeah.
But, so anyway, but stay with us at KPGZ, and we'll tell you all the updated weather information as we get closer to this weekend, but I'm thinking we're all going to be okay. And I'd like to say for the record, go Chiefs.
No doubt about that. And, in fact, why do they put the Chiefs on last?
I don't. The best for last.
I don't know, because it's a little weird because of the wild card, the way that things change. So you only have one bye per, where in the past you would have two. They've got a wild card game on Monday night, which that's never happened before. We've got all sorts of weirdness going on. We are playing the Steelers. For those of you who weren't invited, and I think you have to have an invitation. I know you have to have tickets. It's the farewell party for Ben Roethlisberger. It's on Sunday night out at Arrowhead. For those of you who would like to go do that,
it's limited to 78,000 attendees. I think.
All?
Yeah.
And so, Mike was in Colorado for the Chiefs game last week.
And funny, everybody in the room, as we were watching the game in Colorado, were Chiefs fans. That's you might find unusual, but frankly, you can even buy Chiefs gear. I'm not kidding you in Colorado, which tells you sort of what they think of their own football team. And any of you who remember the days when John Elway broke our hearts week after week and year after year. And then Peyton Manning came in and did the same thing. Listen, a pox upon them. You know what? I hope they have crummy quarterbacks for the next 2 centuries. Because yes, right? I lived through it, and most of you I'm talking to remember.
Oh, I remember.
Oh, mercy.
I remember. Yeah.
So anyway,
that's all I've got. I'm still a little confused why you went to Colorado or to Denver to watch the game.
We have friends out there.
You know, we have TVs here.
I know. Well, some of us
with
do,
the game
Jim.
stuff. So we got that. But anyway, that's.
I don't know. I can't. I get a bad reception in my bunker.
I understand. I'll come over and help you wire that up.
Thank you, buddy.
So why are we here?
That is a good question. And what are we supposed to be doing? I know. Well, I'll tell you this.
You know what, though? We have talked about nothing for 10 minutes, and our ratings are still higher than CNN.
That's right. Well, we haven't lied to anybody yet.
Well, that's true. So, yeah, I like the way you say yet.
I hear.
So the sheriff's department's here.
They are, and that's why we're a little bit nervous.
Our office.
I know. No, we're not nervous at all. We've got Jeremy Farmeyer in here with us, number one. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and thanks for being with us. No kidding. I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I don't think there's... there may be a handful of people in Kearney, Missouri who don't appreciate you guys, but they're probably in jail. So, you know, who cares about them? Well, I care about them. Let's just be humane about this whole thing. And also, we've got Mike Nelson, and both of you guys are detectives with the Clay County Sheriff's Office, and but with you're involved in the drug enforcement aspect.
That's correct. We're on the drug task force.
So, introduce yourself from the standpoint of tell us in a nutshell. What is it that you do for the sheriff's office?
So we investigate crimes in Clay County that have the drug nexus to it, whether those crimes are developed by our road deputies. If they, for instance, stop a car, they find some sort of illegal narcotic in the vehicle, we will take the case. We will do the testing on it. We'll pursue the charges through the prosecutor's office on it. We will also adopt cases from other cities in Clay County, like Kearney, if through the police department, if they stop a car or something to that effect, and they come across some illegal narcotics, and we will take the case for them and run with it and do the testing and submit to the prosecutor's office, and we also investigate the tips that come in through the neighbors who see the typical activity that you would see from some houses that. With a large traffic, a lot of cars coming and going in at night, and just unusual activities, we'll investigate those as well.
Yeah, and I think the other, well, I would say really the primary reason that you're here is there's been an uptick in fentanyl usage in overdoses.
There has, yes.
And that is I think that's the sort of the drug du jour in the media these days.
That's the drug that has the attention now, yes. And the biggest reason for that is, and rightly so, is because it's killing kids. Currently we are investigating 10 overdose deaths in Clay County that stem back from last year, and we're also assisting other agencies with 4 to 5 overdose deaths as well. So we have 14 to 15 cases that we are working on that involving fentanyl and the overdose deaths on them.
So to go back a little bit, what is the what does fentanyl do, and what is the attraction? I mean, why are they attracted to it? Because a lot of people our age, marijuana, cocaine was the big thing, but now this is kind of a new thing. What's the attraction? And
so the attraction to it is the highly addictiveness it is. Basically, it's part of the opioid family, so it's in the same family as heroin, morphine, and fentanyl. Heroin is kind of your base model, so to speak. Morphine is more powerful than that, about 50 times more powerful than that. Then you have fentanyl, which is like 100 times more powerful than morphine. So that's why we're seeing such a uptick in it. It's just so highly addictive.
And because I know kids are really attracted to it, what are they looking for? What is it that they think's going to happen? Or
Well, they're looking for a high, and it gives them such an intense high, and it basically just makes their mind go blank, and quite honestly, sometimes I wonder if they really realize the seriousness of, or the potence of it, because a lot of these cases that we're investigating are in the pill form, of counterfeit pill form of the other pharmaceutical oxycodone.
So, and let's talk about that, because I think that we mentioned it off the air before we started, but there is a medical version of this drug that's used in cancer treatment, and I would assume other things.
Correct. You have the medical grade fentanyl that is used in hospitals, and it's used for pain management with cancer patients and other patients as well. But what we are investigating is the illegal form of fentanyl that comes into the country, and most often comes in the form of powder form.
Right, and I guess, and as Jim pointed out, I mean, a lot of this is generational when we think about, drugs that were, I guess, dangerous and that we were aware of from our generation. I mean, you think of LSD, you think of heroin. I mean, all you have to do is look at some of the famous musicians back in the 60s that died from drug overdoses from heroin and other drugs. But, I mean, are any of those things... Are those factors nowadays? I mean, is that out there?
They're still out there. There's still plenty out there. But I'd say that the trend is what we're seeing is we're seeing this fentanyl, again, being used in these other narcotics that they're using to stretch them out further. We're seeing a lot of fentanyl being mixed in with heroin now. And that's all part of the addictiveness of getting them addicted to it more, to come back for more. It's all about the money. That's what the dealer is making more money that way, and we're seeing it mixed in with meth as well.
Jim alluded to it earlier. You sort of wonder about, especially with kids. You think, well, okay, what's the motivation? You think, why would you be doing a thing like this when you know that? I mean, this is not a registered pharmacist that put this thing together.
That's correct.
And the odds of something going south on you, if you consume this drug, are pretty high.
Yes, so that's exactly correct. These pills that we're investigating, again, they're made to look like real Oxycontin pills, but what they contain is fentanyl and acetaminophen, which is basically your Tylenol. These are not made up by any pharmaceutical grade equipment. They're just thrown together in a batch. They're pressed out in a pill press, and they're sent on their way. So one of the cases that we are investigating right now that we are working on is a couple of girls who bought a fentanyl pill in Clay County. They split the pill in half. One used one half, one used the other half. One girl who used one half was fine and didn't feel really much of an effect. And the other girl who used the other half, by the time they got back to their destination where they lived, she had already overdosed and had passed away.
Oh, man.
So our biggest thing we're fighting is the kids in high school. It's our demographic that's 15 to 24-year-olds is what the biggest thing is what we're seeing is that this is affecting. And these are in all the high schools. There's not a high school in the metro that we haven't looked at that these pills are in.
And so we go through the whole thing of, everybody's heard the just say no and don't do drugs and all that. But and I think the problem we run into with parents is my kid wouldn't do that. So as a parent, what are some signs that you could look for to try and catch this, ahead of time?
Ahead of time, yeah. And that's a good question, because we're seeing that these are so highly addictive that they're getting addicted to them so fast. I've interviewed she was a junior at a local high school, and within a week she was addicted to these. Some tips that the parents can look forward to is just your changed behavior in your parents, and the changed behavior, sleepiness, if they've seemed like they're sleeping a lot lately, skin tone, skin color.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Eyes. Look at their eyes. They have bags under their eyes, or look like they're not. They've been staying up a lot, or something like that.
Well, I mean, I raised a couple of teenagers, and I remember they had the incredible sleeping power.
Yes, I have teenagers too. Yes, I'm envious of that sometimes.
I mean, I'm an adult, and I have incredible sleeping power.
It doesn't. I mean, that's not, I guess, an outward sign to me that would suggest that that child is messing around with this stuff. Now, there's got to be something else. I mean, you mentioned some other things, but I think behaviorally, I would imagine they might be hanging around people that you might not have expected them to be. There's that. Around.
Yes, pay attention to who they're hanging out with.
Yeah.
And be quite honestly, we do it at our house. We look at our kids' phones. We look to see who they're talking to on their phones.
Good point.
We keep track of their apps. One of the biggest things that we are combating with this is how these are being sold is through Snapchat. So we know at our house with my wife and I, with our kids, we know who do you have on your Snapchat, what's your stories, what are you putting out there, and what are you receiving. So that is an important part too, is just know your kids, know who they're hanging out with, look at their phones and see who are they communicating with and what's being communicated.
Right. And I think one of the big takeaways would be, don't under any circumstance, and correct me if this is wrong, don't under any circumstance go with the opinion that my kid would never do that.
That's correct.
Because the minute you go into that would never happen here, or that would, because I'm going to guarantee the parents of the kid that you talked about probably didn't have any idea what was going on.
Probably not. Because that's the thing. It does not affect any certain demographic. It's affecting kids. We've interviewed kids as young as 13, 14-year-olds. There is a case where a 14-year-old had overdosed on these and has died. All the way up to, we do have another case where the gentleman was 41. So, but primarily it's the 15 to 25-year-olds that, and it is any socioeconomic background, it doesn't matter.
Now, is fentanyl sort of like a trendy, hip kind of a drug then? Is that sort of part of the motivation?
It seems to be a trend as of now, and it's the same kind of trend that we've seen. Like, I started in law enforcement in 1996. Back then, meth was just starting to, that was the newest trend, was meth back then. And it progressed on, and then it got into the early 2000s where you had the heroin and the pills and started the opioid epidemic. And now it's trending more into the fentanyl. So it's just the latest trend that we're seeing.
I see. I remember they used to refer to designer-type drugs.
Right. That would refer back like to ecstasy, MDMA, which is the same thing. Those type of chemically made, lab-made narcotics.
Right. So anybody in business, if they're smart at all about what they're doing, recognizes a need. There are people out there that are going to buy whatever it is they're selling in a legal business.
Right.
Right. That model works in an illegal business.
Well, that model, it does work, and this is what they will do as well, because you want that business to come back. You want that repeat business. So what we've seen is that if you buy so much of some of these street narcotics, that you will get a dose of naloxone or Narcan with that. So just in case you should overdose, someone's there to distribute that, to give that dosage to you so you can come back and get more.
Yeah, that's kind of frightening.
It is.
But I guess because of the highly addictive characteristic of fentanyl, once you get them, if you get them early, I mean, you talked about the young lady that was within a week, she was like fully addicted. In other words, she would have needed.
She went to rehab. Her parents sent her to rehab.
Yes.
Yeah. She said she was full on addicted within a week, and by 2.5 weeks in, her parents sent her to rehab.
Right. So you're talking about, I mean, not even, who knows how much she was using, what doses she was using during that 1 week period, or less than 1 week period. But all that to say that I'm certain that all of the manufacturers of the illegal version of fentanyl would be happy to have more and more people, do just exactly what she did, and hope that they continue to have customers.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's all about making money.
Right. So, all right. So where we're at right now is there is a tremendous influx of this particular drug that's coming across our southern borders. It's coming through from China, other places. We're not sure where. But you guys have at least some sort of an idea of sort of the sources of this, right?
That's correct. So we work closely with DEA. And through DEA sources, we've been able to determine that most of this illegal form of fentanyl, it comes from labs made in China. It ends up in Mexico. And by there, through Mexico, through the Mexican cartels, it seems through I have a DEA source that would say it seems narrowed down to the Sinaloa cartel, where these pills are made. And then they're shipped across the border, they're trucked across the border. They come in multiple different ways. They'll come into the KC metro area. We've through an interdiction unit through KCPD that Detective Nelson and I work with as well. We've seen where they've intercepted in 1 week. They intercepted 3 boxes, and in those 3, each box contained anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 pills. And that's just in 1 week. That's what was caught in 1 week's time. So that tells you the sheer number of these that come in.
Yeah, and so a good question I have: how are they distributing them? What's the distribution method? Because with going back to the marijuana days and the cocaine days, you had the crack houses and all that sort of thing. Clearly, it's different today. So what's the distribution method today? The
biggest distribution today would be Snapchat. That's the biggest distribution method that we've seen. And it's social media. And it's because our biggest demographic that we're dealing with this is kids. So it's primarily the social media platforms. And there's other different social media platforms out there as well. But the biggest one we've seen is it's being distributed and being advertised even on Snapchat.
But clearly there's a kid or a potential user has to be looking for it, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, they are actively looking online or on their phone, wherever. And
they'll talk to their friends. They'll talk to their friends at school. Say, "Hey, I need some perks." Is a street name for them. Is perks. And he goes, "Hey, I need some perks. Where can you find some perks, or where can you find some 30s? I need some blue, things like that." And they'll say, "Hey, I know of a guy who hit up so and so on Snapchat or and that's what they will do." And that's a big way of how they get distributed around.
So when you said advertised, you don't mean advertise in like the normal sense of advertising, do you? Or is that what you mean?
Oh, absolutely. Some of our investigations, they have openly advertised them on their stories on Snapchat, where they will say, I got the M30s right here, and they'll show a picture of them. They're, generally they'll run on the street. They're generally run about $30 a piece. Depends on how many you buy at a time.
Wow.
That blatant.
It is.
Times have changed, I guess. Wow.
Yes.
Well, that's troubling. In a way that if you're a parent, is that where we need to start? Parents, teachers,
absolutely,
educators, coaches.
Absolutely, that's where the biggest thing to start is, and that's what we are trying to do. Is what we're doing with our drug education summits, which our next one's coming up on February 17th at 6 p.m. at Vineyard Church, just south of Smithville off 169 Highway. Come on out because we have multiple resources there. We'll have resources there for addiction, for parents who need more information, parents who need to get help for their kids, or help for yourself. And but the biggest thing that we're trying to do is just get the education and get the word out to parents, to teachers, what to look for, how to recognize an overdose, if they see a student or seeing someone overdosing, what to look for. So that's our biggest thing we've got going right now.
Right. So I guess I'm trying to get a sense of the sort of the, corporate hierarchy of these drug lords. It starts with the big guy at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It typically will start with someone at a cartel level.
Right. And so there's sort of an an organizational chart that sort of filters down to, well, even your local dealer here in Kearney, Missouri, right?
That's right.
Is there a chance that there's somebody right here in town?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I don't want to be naive,
Right. No, I can't go into too many details, but yes, there has been a case here in Kearney.
And obviously the usage wouldn't be up this high, and the sort of influx of, the product wouldn't continue if there weren't users and distributors, local and regional, and it goes on up the chain. How can you? I want to be careful about how I ask the question, but clearly you want to get the top guy. You want to get to the top. You want to cut the snake's head off.
That's right. And typically we will do that. We'll try to work up the chain by those who get caught at the lower level. We'll work on the ones at the lower level. We'll try to get up as high as we can, and then from there on, we'll try to work that up the level from there. Either receiving with the person who's been caught, if they're willing to help, if they're willing to work their charges off, and tell us where they're getting it from, and work it on up that way. That's what we try to do.
Is the dealer typically a user, or are they just in it for the money and the business, I guess?
On the lower levels, typically they're a user as well. But you get higher up, and it generally turns into where it's a business and they don't use their own product.
Right. I would think if you want to keep the operation running smoothly, you want to keep a clear head about it. But
That's
it's
right.
Interesting, though, that I always kind of wondered about those guys that are, at the street level.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's a lot here. It's so much to unpack. I think from the standpoint of how that contact, once the user makes contact with the dealer, with the distributor, what kind of conversation takes place, and how. I mean, you mentioned that they are actually advertising.
Yeah, right.
They actually wonder what that transaction sort of looks like.
I can imagine it's usually something along the lines of, hey, I've got some people who's wanting these, and that's generally how it would probably start out. Is I've got some people who are wanting these. I need X amount for this week. Can I get this X amount? And that distributor will either the person who's buying, either he will just pay cash for him up front, or most often is the case, the distributor will front him. He'll give him the pills, and then by the next week, he's got to pay back X amount of whatever he sold back to the distributor.
Oh, fascinating. Jeremy Farmeyer, detective with Clay County Drug Task Force. And is Jeremy coming back, or we're going to go to... Okay, well, let's go to Mike and after the break. And thank you for being with us, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Appreciate the hard work you guys do.
Thank you.
And the effort for something that I think is just at an epidemic level in a way that I just perhaps have been a little naive and not paying enough attention to it. But thanks for the hard work you do. Stay with us. You're listening to Kearney Live. We'll be right back with Detective Mike Nelson from the Clay County Sheriff's Office. Stay with us.
Special thank you going out to underwriters like these for their support of KPGZ.
Simplify your banking, simplify your life. It's easy with Kearney Trust Company. The world has become fast-paced, and we understand that you are busy. That's why we offer a banking experience that's as simple and stress-free as can be. Kearney Trust goes beyond convenient locations and good customer care to offer banking services that make managing your finances quicker and easier than ever before. Online, bill pay, e-statements, and mobile banking are available to give you a positive banking experience so you can get back to your life and activities. Kearney Trust also provides capital to people and businesses so they can achieve their goals. Whether you know exactly what you want or just need someone to talk to about your dream, you can speak with them and work on that dream. You may just be getting off the ground or ready to move into your brick and mortar building. Kearney Trust will provide you and your business with the resources you need to succeed. Kearney Trust Company is your partner for success with 2 convenient locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
And welcome back to Kearney Live. I am your host, Mike Davis, and I am so happy you are here with us. I wanted to thank our sponsor, Kearney Trust. As you know, they have been around for over 150 years, Brian. Is that right? It was, I think, 150? At least 100. And so, well, we know that that's a long darn time to be in any business, but certainly we appreciate them for being with us since the beginning of this program. And we have been talking today with the Clay County Sheriff's Office, and in particular, Jeremy Farmeyer. And Mike Nelson is with us today, and they are both with they're detectives with the Clay County Drug Task Force. And we're talking about fentanyl and the sort of unbelievable influx of a very dangerous drug that's made its way into neighborhoods and, unfortunately, high schools all over the metro area, we are to learn. Mike Nelson, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. And I think as we discussed with Jeremy, look, this thing is at epidemic proportions. You all are doing everything you can. I mean, do you ever get the sense that it's just an uphill battle?
I don't feel that way. I think we've got several members of the Drug Task Force, and as I was saying earlier, it's a full-time, full court press, and as long as we're out here, we're going to continue to fight that. It's a good fight, okay? And we know that if we save one person in all of it, you know, it was all worth it.
Right. You know, the hardest things we have to do are the most challenging things that we have to do in life. Yes. Are oftentimes the things you want to sort of move aside and go to the easy stuff, you know. And obviously, you guys can't do that. I mean, not in a situation like this. What sort of motivates you on a daily basis to fight a crime like this?
I obviously see it. We all see it here. The platform that you've given us today is so it's important. And of course, we thank you for allowing us to come out here and discuss this. But honestly, I really think that we part of the Drug Task Force. It's not for the money. We're passionate about just helping out our community first and foremost. And I know the community depends on us. Mm-hmm. I know they do. Right. I think the majority certainly do. And we work around the clock. We don't shut down at 5.
Yes.
We're not shutting down at noon. Right. We're around the clock operation. And you know, we just want to make it a better community for all of us.
Right. Have there been recent arrests or even leads that you have where you've got a sense that that we're in the fight now, and you, let's put it in football terms, you at least made a first down.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
Every day, you know, I look at each day just similar to that, and I'm old school. I've been doing this a long time as well, and I don't think for a second everybody that is caught with possession of any illegal narcotics needs to go to prison, needs to go to jail. I think they really need help, you know, and I think sometimes we confuse that. But if anybody were to reach out to one of us, we can certainly offer resources. I want to be to give people alternatives. You know that, hey, if I saved your life today, you know, we're not talking about putting you in prison. We're talking about getting you some treatment, getting you some help.
Right.
And we have that here at Clay County, which is great. For the community.
Well, yeah. So, for example, I mean, if a student, and I'm just thinking at the high school level now, I mean, because they would have access to the social media aspect of locating the drug and buying it.
Yes.
If there are there ways, I mean, again, without giving away trade secrets, I mean, if somebody came to you as a student or a friend of a friend, that sort of thing, and said, hey, I know somebody that's got a real problem with this thing. What you're telling me, it sounds like, is you're not going to just go and slap the cuffs on.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're humans too.
Right.
You know, we understand. We all have family. We live in the community. We're part of the community. And that's the most important thing. If you have a problem, an addiction, let's get some help. We're on your side. We're essentially just trying to get people the assistance or the resources.
Right. So the drug summit, which is at the Vineyard Church.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's was it February 17th.
February.
That's a place where that would be a good forum. I mean, it holds hundreds of people.
Yes.
So that would be a place where you could sort of help spread this
Absolutely.
word, and then maybe go do a little end around here, to use another football metaphor, to get people to maybe approach you in a way to say, you know what, I think I know somebody that really needs your help.
Yes.
And then you've got those resources then where you can,
Absolutely.
you can send them away.
Several members of the community have resources available and you can talk to them and get help.
Right.
So,
in the meantime, the local distributor, as we have referred to them, the one who's selling these things, that's the person you want to get off the street. I mean, if you cut the supply, and then the user doesn't have anything there to
it's
nothing to buy.
It's all driven by making money. That's at the end of the day, it's all about making money. These you refer to them as cartels. They are all in it for the money. They don't care if they hurt your child, your grandchild, your neighbor, destroy your community, because it's all about making money. So at the end of the day,
how much money? I mean, I'm sure you've got some kind of great big dollar figure that none of us can relate to in this room.
It's a big industry. Yes, they're doing very well. The higher ups, the street level dealers are going to make a few dollars here and there, but the consequences obviously are pretty severe.
Do you find that I know you mentioned early before we went on the air that this has impacted pretty much every local high school?
Yes,
and we're talking metro wide.
Yes.
Do you ever get the sense that the school administration is surprised by that?
I do.
Yeah.
But I think they're pretty well educated on the subject. I think most of them are, and I think they do their due diligence and very supportive of law enforcement and the direction that we're going on the education prevention of this particular narcotic.
Right. There was a case, an overdose, right?
Yes.
At Kearney High School.
Yes.
And how did that play out?
Haven't got the final. This is an ongoing investigation, and so
can't say a lot about it.
Can't say much about it, but the objective is we want to know who provided that pill, who provided those pills to this student. And
go ahead, Jim.
Serious.
Well, I was going to say, going a little deeper, how much cooperation are you guys able to get and maintain? And it's not from a standpoint of getting along as it is just resources and manpower. Obviously, on the street level, if you get rid of a street level dealer, there's going to be 10 others that'll take their spot.
Yes.
But the higher you go, the more impact you have on the supply chain. So going down, I know we have a problem at the border.
Yes.
So like he said earlier, it goes from China to Mexico, and then apparently, and Mike can attest to this too, we have some sort of gap in the border down there in the Mexico area. But obviously it makes a bigger impact if we're able to cut the supply chain off at the higher level than down at the lower level. How successful are you guys being at really getting into the higher level where it makes an impact? And then once you do that, are the courts really helping? Because I agree with you, on the lower level, getting someone treatment, get them off of the addiction, that's important and that's there. But the fact of the matter is, at the higher level, those people aren't addicted. They're in it for the business, and that's where, from a prosecution standpoint, you need something with teeth. How successful are you guys being at that level?
I think we have a great partnership with the local, state, the federal side of it, the House. We have extremely strong prosecutors here in our own county. Great cooperation. On the federal side, there is more emphasis. We've got more prosecutors on the here in Kansas City. The federal prosecutors on board with us. And again, I believe that it's a great partnership, and we communicate daily on these matters. And when we submit cases, and we basically are working, I think, pretty well together. I feel that way.
Now, you mentioned that you guys work with various law enforcement agencies.
Yes.
Now, is that just within Clay County or region wide or?
Right. So part of it is we're employed by the Clay County Drug Task Force, but we also work with the Missouri Western Interdiction of Narcotics, which encompasses Platte County, Jackson County. But most of our resources are here in Clay County. Mm-hmm. But if, let's say, you had a high-level dealer in, let's say, Independence, mm-hmm. okay, that my investigation led me to the Independence location, we would certainly be able to go out there and work with the Jackson County partners. It's a great, it's a good relationship. Strong.
So
work with them.
The jurisdiction extends to whatever leads you to the guys that are creating, that are selling this stuff. That'll
absolutely.
take you further to the top.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. The chain, I guess, the supply chain. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting. I think that it's not like you just, like the car stops at the border.
Right.
And you don't get to go into Platte County.
Yes.
It's all on them.
I think the misconception out there is we just kind of just work within our own community, and that's far from the truth.
Right.
We have great partnerships with all the federal level law enforcement, including the local law enforcement.
Well, when you're talking about manpower, I mean, that's encouraging to those of us, the citizens, who think, wait a minute, this really is a problem, and aren't you a little understaffed?
The Clay County Sheriff's Office, I know they prioritize the drug squad and the investigation portion of it, because we know that how it's impacted our community, and
right.
Well, and it's important. I think it's very important because of the nature of it to try and prevent the problem, because a lot of times you guys don't become aware of it until you have an actual overdose. And for some people, as we've learned, at that point it's too late.
Yes.
How are you guys able to kind of get in there and try and find things before they get to that level?
I think one of our biggest things is we just communicate. We put ourselves out there. We don't. We're not sitting in an office all day with our doors closed. We're out there in the community. We're out there in the schools. We're giving presentations to students, faculty in different schools throughout our county, and even outside. I mean, we'll even go upon request to go to other schools. So I think what we're doing is more of a proactive, and I'm all about community policing. So I want people to be able to come to me. If you call me, anytime Darren and I call the drug squad, because we don't shut down, like I said earlier, we'll follow up. We'll do our best to make contact, come out to the house, and listen to whatever problems you might be faced at the time. So,
I'm sorry, Mike. Mm-hmm. And this, because I know a lot of parents are probably thinking this, we've talked about fentanyl and all that, but we've never really, and I know we don't have any images here, but I'm sure you guys do on your website or something, so that parents know what they're looking for. Okay. Because they're not going to find a box that says illegal fentanyl on it, I'm thinking. Right. So I'm a parent, I'm in my kid's room or whatever the case may be. What am I looking for?
It can come in a couple of different colors. I would describe it as kind of a powdered form. You've seen, I don't know if you've ever seen like black tar heroin. Okay, that's more of a thicker of a wax, a dark wax, whereas fentanyl is more of a powder form. That's the most common. Or as we talked about earlier, the pills such as the Perk 30s or the Xanax bars. They are done very professionally now. If you would have showed me a let's just say a Xanax bar 5 years ago, their presses are they are pharmaceutical look. I mean, you couldn't tell the difference between a real Xanax bar or a one that had fentanyl inside of it. The cartels have perfected the pill press and on that side of it. So these kids are thinking it's just a Xanax bar. It's not going to hurt you, or a Perk 30. And most of the time they're hot,
Well, yeah, I was going to say, and one thing that's happened, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there have been cases, because they are so good, there's cases of these fentanyl pills getting mixed in.
Yes.
Inadvertently, someone picks up the wrong thing.
That's right.
So
common, so common. You know, again, you may think you purchased it at your local drugstore, but it was, you know, made clandestine, you know, from a clandestine lab in Mexico.
Right. I tell you, this reminds me of remember the series Breaking Bad?
Yes.
And you saw the level of sophistication.
Yes.
That was, I think. And look, you know, art imitates life. I mean, what we saw in that was when you saw this operation that was, you know, undercover and, you know, a totally different looking manufacturing facility.
Yes.
That's down in the basement and yet has all of the earmarks of a Fortune 500 manufacturing lab.
You're right.
And that's what you get. And that's what's out there right now.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Well, and that's
They've
why
perfected it.
Yeah, and that's why I was, because when, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, and you talked about black tar heroin and marijuana and cocaine, we all knew what that looked like because, you know, it was pounded into our head. But now as these things have progressed, and the way they are able to make them is it's really good.
Yes.
I mean, it's so good, like you said, it's very difficult to tell the difference. If you can tell the difference.
And they're all clandestine labs. These are not chemists. These are not physicians. These are not, they're, you know, essentially out to destroy our communities are, you know, bottom line.
I will say this, going back to the days of methamphetamine, you remember the chemical reaction you had to do that.
Yes.
And I always was amazed, and if these guys would take half the energy because you had to have quite a knowledge base to do that. Now, I went to more than one house where they blew it up. It happened. But I always thought if those guys would spend half the energy they spent making meth because of the chemical reactions, and they knew exactly how to do it and would put that into use. But the same thing goes here. I mean, the amount of work that goes into making these pills is phenomenal.
You're precise. It's precisely what's going on.
And I just like
the money's a little better then, obviously then I guess than
yes,
well,
right. And
I just want you to know I don't watch what is it, Breaking Bad?
Breaking Bad.
I watch wholesome programs like 700 Club.
I'll bet you do.
But be that.
Why are you laughing, Brian?
What? What?
He's mocking you.
What?
I have to just kind of go back to this whole the motivation of somebody feeling like they not only need this something to, you know, to get high. There's a lot of options, starting with legal substances.
I agree.
You know, in fact, many of which are legal right now in our state. What drives somebody? I just can't understand the motivation to take something that the risk is so high that it will kill you.
Absolutely. It is a death sentence. There's no other ways around it. If you are truly going to hurt yourself, and what's even worse is you hurt the people around you. You know, that's the hardest part, because there's a lot of families out there that are their children, like I said earlier, children, grandchildren are being destroyed with this.
Well, you've seen, obviously you're making many of these arrests now.
Yes, we are
at the user level, right?
Correct.
So is there a profile of this person? Are you seeing all kinds of family situations, even the most squeaky clean sort of you see where I'm going with this. It could be anyone.
I agree 100%. So yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't discriminate. You know, it's socioeconomic. It covers all colors and
right
situations. So,
and there's peer pressure that we, as any of us who were a teenager, seems like that was a long time ago in Jim's case.
Thank you for that. But it's funny from the drug standpoint. It's kind of always been this way. So you go back to the maybe not the 50s, but let's start with the 60s, 60s, 70s. And I think television probably did it for us. You were led to believe that the drug problem was a lower socioeconomic type thing, right? Yes. And so what we found was, when we get into the remember when people did the stamps, well, let me talk to the old guy.
Oh no,
Actually,
People did the stamps.
right. That was LSD, right?
Yes.
Right,
Yeah,
LSD
right,
on the
yeah.
stamps, and then we got into the heroin and all that sort of thing, and then you'd get your hot shots and all that. But what we started to realize was this was across the board. It was happening to rich kids, higher
Suburban high schools of
exactly.
well-to-do families.
And the
yes,
look-
upper socioeconomic, as you indicated.
And,
right.
and so that was back in the 60s and 70s. And here we are 30, 40, 50 years later, and we still get that look of surprise because it happens to everyone. And I don't know how we've gone on and on and on and on and on for years saying, don't, and I said it earlier, don't think for a minute, oh, my kid would never do that. I'm not saying that all the kids are doing it. Don't read that into it. But do your due diligence, because there's a lot at stake if you're wrong or you miss it. And you do not want to be that parent that says, I saw that, but I thought my kid would never do that.
Hey, Jim, if you're a parent of a high school student, I will bet you that your son or daughter knows somebody who's involved in this. Am I wrong, Mike?
you're spot on. You're right on. I've got 2 teenagers myself in high school, and that, they're, of course, I talk to them every day. You really have to get involved, as Detective Farmeyer was saying earlier. You have to get involved, and you may you may upset them for whatever reason. When we might today we're going to have a cell phone check. We're going to look at your apps. Let's see what you have.
You're talking about within your own home.
Absolutely.
Yes, right.
Absolutely. There's got to be that accountability.
And that's the thing.
That parenting.
Right. Exactly right. And you, listen, I think the temptation for all parents is to be your son or daughter's buddy.
Friend.
You're right? And you don't want to offend them. And but I would think that if they are highly offended by you asking, a parent asking to, let's have a look at your phone, then there may be something that they're hiding, right?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
is that a thing to look for?
And it sounds trivial. It may mean like, well, they may reply, you don't trust me. Well, trust is earned. And no one, I think, like most parents do, we want to engage. We want to know what you're looking at, and it's the, it's just be part of a parent, and
Yes.
it's transparency.
I think it goes back to just think about it. When we were kids, that was a long time ago. But anyway,
I've forgotten.
Yeah, when we were kids, let's face it, you knew everything. Your parents were the dumbest people in the room, and then as you got older, your parents got smarter, you got dumber, and here we are now.
Man, look how dumb we are.
It's a miracle that I walked into the right place, but Brian did come get me out of the bathroom. A little embarrassing, but no. In all reality, as a kid, everything, and your parents are just dumb, and that's just the way. That's part of the growing and learning process. So, as a parent, it is very difficult to go try and look at. And granted, we didn't have cell phones and
that's huge.
Computers and iPads and all that. So there wasn't. What are they going to look at? Your Big Chief tablet? That's all we had.
You can listen. I get it. You can find just about any kind of evidence on a phone once you've got it. But if you don't have any reason to believe that there's a crime being committed or something nefarious going on, you're not going to see any evidence on a kid's phone of anything. And so that sort of says to me that would be a place for parents to start, right? To begin with monitoring that phone activity.
All social media
Yeah.
devices in your home. It could be from a laptop to a cell phone. So
Right. We've got a couple minutes left here, Mike, or a minute or so. What's your best advice, sort of looking down the road, or what's your outlook, I guess, on this whole fentanyl epidemic? Where are we going? Where is this thing going? And your thoughts?
I think that we continue. This is just an example of this community here. What you gentlemen have provided for us a platform to talk about it, to bring awareness to to our community and Clay County. The glass is half full for me. I'm optimistic because I believe that there's a lot of people that like us in this room here that want to make it a better place to live for all of us. And I think we have great partnerships, and I think that we're heading in the right direction. But I think we just need more awareness, more involvement, more obviously resources, medical resources, and mental health, things like that. But certainly.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your optimism. And I think, tell me again about the drug summit real quickly.
February
17th February. Yes.
Yeah, down at
Vineyard Church over on 169.
169, that is right.
Yep, big opportunity. And say it again. What was the date?
February the 17th.
17th. Okay, good.
Let's end on a high note, too. How do you feel about that?
I think it's a great opopportunity to learn and get in front of. Get some information on this, folks. Seriously, I'm kind of ignorant on a lot of things, but particularly this, and I've learned a lot. Thank you both so much. Jeremy Farmeyer and Mike Nelson, both with the Clay County Drug Task Force. Love you guys. Love what you're doing with law enforcement. All of you guys. Big salute. Hats off to you. Thanks for fighting the good fight, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And the rest of you, thank you for being with us. Stay with us on Kearney Live through the rest of this year. Happy 2022, my goodness. Here we are. And we'll see you next week on Kearney Live. Thanks so much.